G'day, my fellow media collectors. I'm Troy, and today we're looking at Danger Diabolik is an action crime supervillain film that was produced by Dino de Laurentiis, Cinematografica, and Marianne Productions, and the official premiere was held in Italy on the 24th of January 1968. This film is one of the first serious comic book adaptations long before superheroes dominated Hollywood. This film brought a gritty, stylish comic anti-hero to life. Over the years, this film has grown a cult following amongst comic book fans and Euro cinema history buffs alike, with the Beastie Boys referencing the film in their Body Movin music video from 1998, where they recreated scenes shot for shot. This DVD has a runtime of 105 minutes. It was first released on DVD on the 14th of June 2005. And it was distributed by Paramount Home Entertainment. The story follows Master Thief Diabolik and his partner Eva Kant as they embark on a series of daring heists against the corrupt government. With his sleek gadgets, underground lair, and cunning mind, Diabolik outwits both law enforcement and criminal rivals while stealing millions. As authorities intensify their efforts, led by Inspector Ginko, Diabolik's crimes grow bolder, culminating in a showdown that challenges his legendary invincibility. Can Inspector Ginko capture the Master Thief, or will Diabolik outwit law enforcement yet again? Now, the script for this film is a fascinating blend of pulp crime fiction and 1960s psychedelic fantasy. However, at its core, it spends most of its time prioritizing its visual spectacle and attitude over any sort of introspection or engaging backstory, which fits the film's tone. Look, that's what they were trying to achieve, but it sacrifices the nuance and narrative in the process. The screenplay embraces the over-the-top nature of the source material, and rather than moralizing Diabolik's actions, the script sort of glorifies this rebellion angle against corrupt institutions, with the government officials and the law enforcement alike being portrayed more as greedy, incompetent, and morally compromised, with the goal of shifting the audience's sympathy towards their outlaw. As the film progresses, it quickly becomes predictable as, Diabolik steals something, Ginko chases him, Diabolik escapes with barely a scratch, rinse and repeat. Without any escalation or consequence, the stakes remain static at best, and the second half of the film really starts to begin to drag, with this just going on and on and on. While this film is visually engaging, there's no two ways, the script doesn't offer much in deeply layered or complex storylines. The narrative functions are nothing more than a series of stylish set pieces that are tightly woven together, which, let's face it, would probably leave some viewers feeling pretty unfulfilled story-wise. Look, the script is a bold, stylish, and faithful translation of the comic book source material, but look, it just doesn't aim for any sort of realism or emotional complexity. Instead, it thrives on the aesthetic excess, anarchistic energy, and pure escapism fun. That's pretty much it. While it lacks narrative depth, its commitment to its world building and its tone makes it quite the memorable piece of 1960s genre cinema. And look, for that, Look, the best I could probably do story-wise is a 12 out of 30. So this film is an adaptation from the original comic book called Fumetti Neri Comics, which is a subgenre, or black comics as they call them. It's an Italian genre known for crime, noir, and eroticism, published monthly in black and white little digest size volumes. Now, the character Diabolik was created by the sisters Angelina and Lucina Gassiani, I hope I got that right, in 1962. The original Diabolik comic was widely popular in Italy, known for their dark anti-hero and its adult themes. And this series actually consists of more than 900 volumes. I mean, wow. Talk about a collection to have.
You can collect them up. You can collect them up.
Now, the movie does a great job of replicating his costume to a T. It looks very spot on. And though, look, let's put it in perspective, it wasn't really hard to do, as his costume is very basic at best. So let's face it, the bar wasn't set real high to get over, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yes I do.
Now, as we look at the cast, I'll just grab them from here. And as you can see, the cast list is decent, but it really only has a few major players here, and the rest are all more small extra type roles. And look, depending on your knowledge of your 1960s actors, you may not recognize many names here, but you may know our star of the film, John Philip Law, from Barbarella, as he shot that first, and then straight after that went and did Danger Diabolik on the same movie lot, no less.
Someone's been busy.
So look, for me, there are only 3 actors I'm going to focus on, as, look, let's face it, they are the majority of the movie. And first off is our star, John Philip Law, as Diabolik. Now, Law plays the titular anti-hero with this icy, stoic sort of presence, and his performance is minimalistic to a fault, almost to the point of bordering on expressionless. But you know it works within the film's stylized, larger-than-life framework. Law's physicality and commanding screen presence help make Diabolik feel like this mysterious, unstoppable force, even if his emotional range is pretty limited. But he seems to be intentionally, as this film is more focused on image than it is character. Now, Marissa Mel as Eva Kant brings sensuality, elegance, and a poise to this role of Eva, while, look, the script really doesn't give her much depth or agency. Mel just manages to captivate you with her magnetic screen presence. She's just gorgeous. She shares like this really good visual chemistry with Law, and she's, well, let's face it, she's more about looking glamorous than delivering a groundbreaking performance, shall we say. And of course, we have Michael Piccoli as Inspector Ginko. Now, Piccoli is a veteran French actor who brings a slightly more grounded performance as Inspector Ginko, the dogged lawman trying to bring Diabolik to justice. Now, while his role is fairly straightforward, he does manage to add a touch of gravitas to the role and this real dry frustration to the film, offering a nice contrast to the flamboyant criminal world around him. And as far as the other supporting actors go, they're really just minor at best and largely forgettable, to tell you the truth. The characters are often reduced to more exposition machines or comic relief, if you know what I mean. So look, this serves their function within the stylized world that the director Brava does well to create, but within the context of a highly visual, genre-breaking fantasy film, the performances actually fit the tone of what he was going for. And with that, I'm actually going to go 15 out of 20. Okay, let's look at the disc and case and look at that cover. That kind of draws in. I don't mind it, it looks pretty good. And if we look at the side, that doesn't look too bad on your shelf either, that one, don't mind that. And then on the back, that's not too bad actually. They've done a little bit of effort. That picture looks really good with the way they've laid it out. I have to admit, it really sort of gets you interested. Definitely got me interested to want to watch this film. And as far as the disc goes, unfortunately, just let me get around. Now that is a little disappointing, isn't it? Yeah, unfortunately it's just the mass-produced disc. I reckon they could have put like his face or something. That face again would have looked good. Look, overall, not a bad job actually. I'll just close that up. It suits the aesthetic. It sort of matches what it's about, but then it's also pretty mass-produced as well. It's sort of borderline. Anyway, for that, oh geez, well, I'm probably going to give this maybe a 6 out of 10. So there actually are a couple of special features on this DVD, and they include a commentary by actor John Philip Law and Tim Lucas, Danger Diabolik from Fermetti to Film, a music video Body Movin by the Beastie Boys with an optional commentary by Adam Yauch, teaser trailer and theatrical trailer. So look, there are a few things here, and I have to say the Fermetti to Film featurette is a great watch, and it really gives you an appreciation for what this movie is about and why it has become this massive cult classic. It's definitely worth a watch, that's for sure. And then there's the standard trailers and commentary, so not a huge amount of stuff, but the featurette itself is just worth it alone, to tell you the truth. You really should check it out if you watch this movie. Anyway, for that, I'm probably going to give this a 5 out of 10. Okay, as I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critics here have come in at 67%, that's not too bad. While the audience score came in at, even better, 71%. Now, part of me kind of is surprised by those actual scores, and it seems across the board with the critics and the audience kind of take the same sort of approach. People talk about the visual spectacle and style of the movie, like really sort of like those James Bond movies of the time, with no real mention of the story. But the people who review it for the story are the ones who give it the bad reviews. And look, that sums this movie up in a T. It really does. It looks fantastic, but it really lacks story development in any way, shape or form. So look, if we round out those scores, obviously we're going to get a score of 7 out of 10. So this is the last film of my month of foreign film reviews, and this week I bring you to Italy with the Danger Diabolik movie, which, look, I just came across this on eBay a few years ago, and I picked it up and thought nothing more than just this cheesy 60s cult movie. But since I have discovered that there is more out there to this than just this movie, and I picked up the cartoon series that was released in 1999. I've got that one. And I've also just recently found out, when I was doing my research for this review, that there's 3 new movies that were released just in the last couple of years, which that kind of took me by surprise. But I'm gonna have to go look and see if I can find them to add them to the collection. Now, this movie is not your standard superhero fare, as a hero is, well, he's actually a villain, which at the time was a very rare thing. Not like where we have these sort of anti-pseudo villain movies that they've been getting pumped out. I'm looking at you, Sony. The majority of things that stick out is to you about this is that when you're watching it, it's all about the look and the style of the film. Where it's almost like every shot looks like it's been painstakingly set up just to get it right, and it just looks like panels from a comic book. Which, don't get me wrong, I really do appreciate that. As an artist myself, the movie just looks fantastic for a 60s movie. I'll preference that. But this does unfortunately come at the expense of the story, as it just seems like a few crazy heists thrown together with no real motivation or backstory to the explanation of why this is all happening or why he does this. And let's not talk about the ending. Ooh, very open-ended and a little weird as well, but I'll let you find out for yourselves. It's not hard to see why this has become a cult classic amongst cinema fans of that 60s sort of style of film. But for your average cinema goer, look, this movie will be a slow, boring slog of a movie to get through at times and will make little to no sense to you at all story-wise. Anyway, for me, visually, it was great. It was a great movie to watch, but for the story, look, it was a bit boring and it was almost as bad as washing paint dry. But look, overall, for the look of it and everything, and then you take away from the story, the best I can do is probably an 8 out of 20. Okay, so for availability, I'm going to put this at a 3 out of 5, as it's still not too hard to find if you're looking at it on the second-hand market, but you will have to look for it. It's not like super common. Now for collectability, I'm probably going to go a 3 out of 5. Again, it's a good cult classic to have in your collection, but it's definitely not a necessity when it comes to comic book movies. The average price, you are looking at somewhere between the $6 to $28 mark for DVD, so as I say, it does pay to shop around. Let's go to the scorecard and see how this one shapes up. Now for the final score, we get a grand total of 53 out of 100, which, let's face it, that's not a bad score for this older 1960s cult classic. If you're looking for a movie that is stylized and quite the visual feast, this is for you. But if you're looking for something with a little bit of story to it, well, my friend, this is not the movie for you.
We'll be the judge of that.
Next week on the show, we have my monthly collection update, so make sure you tune in to see what I managed to pick up for the month of May. Can't wait to check that one out. Thanks for watching.